first you were doing a 30-minute pep talk to help someone for 15 minutes. And now, you're doing lives with, 200 people signed up, and maybe, I don't know, how tens of people just show up at a time, and you're just doing it, you're flowing. But that's because you made that decision from the very beginning to just get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And then the second part is, the pieces of the puzzle, like, that critical thinking and all of that you got from mechanical engineering. And I love how what you said about, it was, you had the right skill set, just it was not in the right space that you were applying it. And that is something that some people just need to come to terms with. I think that, and tell me what your experience has been here. Did you have this feeling like, oh, I've worked so hard in this area, in this field. How can I now just leave all of that and now go to selling supplements or go to helping people with their fertility? Did you feel any type of like, oh, I need to bury this part of me, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think definitely, especially while I was doing like the supplements and the fitness coaching, I had that feeling a lot more. Once I had started the fertility and like my functional health, um, not as much, just because I felt so strongly about it. And this was kind of where, like, so I was pregnant with my son. um, he was due in September. I left my job in August, right before he was born. And that was kind of a big where it's like I just knew I couldn't do both, and it felt like such an easy decision for me at that point because I had found something I love so much. And just even the conversations I was having like with my boss and with like management of like only taking X amount of time off with my baby. And I remember them having a conversation with me. He was due in October. He came a month early, but they had a conversation with me of like, you might not want to take your full 12 weeks of your FMLA because you're going into like cold and flu season. So like you want to, because I would have used up all my like sick leave and vacation time within that and taken a lot of it unpaid. They're like, so you won't have any sick leave left. Like what happens if your baby gets sick through the winter time and you don't have any time to take off with him? And that was like, that will always stand out to me of being like, this is exactly why I need to get out of here because I cannot imagine having to like, I can't take time off with my baby because I don't have any sick leave left. Where it's like, that's probably the biggest thing that I love what I do. I love the business I'm creating. I love like it's so much bigger than a business to me. But like that is the biggest thing that I'm so grateful for where like my kids can be sick and it's a couple messages to my clients of I'm so sorry. We will reschedule ASAP. Thank you for understanding versus having to like stress about sick
I
leave.
mean, like, the ridiculousness of it all, right? Who decided? Like, who? Obviously, I am convinced that it is men that have stay-at-home wives taking care of their babies that come up with these stupid rules. 12 weeks of that's not even enough already. And then you have to start doing all this like mental gymnastics as if you already know the future. How do I know that I need only 10 sick days for the year?
It's
Like, do we
crazy.
plan to get sick? Nobody wants to get sick.
Right. No, it's yeah, and I worked for the government, so it was very much so like follow you had to follow the rules. There was no like taking an unpaid day because you don't have any time. Like it was very by the rule book. If you don't have PTO, you don't get time off. And so I guess that's where it's like there was a little bit of that where it's like I did work really hard for my engineering, but once I started actually working in the field, it was so clear to me that that is not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It just took me finding what I felt really passionate about, where it probably felt a little bit too easy. That's a part of my story was like, I look back and laugh now because I definitely went with the burn the ships mentality of we're going for it. It's now or never. And it was a very stressful couple of years because of that. Um, where it's like, would I recommend somebody else doing that? Maybe not, but I mean, it's what got me here. So
What would you change if you had to do it all over again? Like, assuming you knew that, okay, Redefine Fertility is what you want to do, right? How would you have burned the boats if you that's if you even did it at all?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't change anything just because of the timeline, where it's like I knew I had a baby coming. I was already having a hard time juggling the two, and I knew I didn't want to do both, like try to have this side business and a full-time job and a baby. So I'm not going to do that. My time with my baby is so precious, and especially after having three miscarriages, like that time was so precious to me. And I knew I didn't want to juggle both. Like if I'm going to stay at my corporate job, that's just going to be what I do for the rest of my life. Like I'm not going to try to do both. Or it's going to wait till a different season when my kids are grown up and then I can revisit this, which is going to be 10 years down the road. So going back, I wouldn't do anything different because I was just on a timeline. And I was making like some months 5K, some months like 2 to 3 doing, I was still kind of in the fitness coaching space. I was pregnant, very pregnant, fitness coaching and in my functional health certification, racing the clock on that. I was like timed up to be taking my exam like right before my son was due. My son ended up being born a month early, so I was taking this exam while I had a newborn strapped to me. I was racing the clock just in all sorts of things, trying to make as like enough money to justify quitting my job. And that's where my husband was really great, where like he saw that I was making some money. It definitely wasn't enough money to probably justify leaving my job, but he kind of knew where I was at with it, where he encouraged me to leave my job. And I'm really thankful that he did, because yeah, I wouldn't do anything different besides, yeah, it was just kind of the way things had to be if this was going to be the outcome.
Yeah, you wouldn't do anything different besides even pressing in and leaning in even more. Like, you know
Yeah,
what?
maybe
This
leading in
is
a little bit more. I mean, done things differently in my business to make more money faster, to make it a little stressful. I mean, if I wouldn't have had that timeline, I would have loved to have a little bit more like in savings and more like recurring revenue and like those types of things lined up. So it wasn't as stressful of a transition. That just wasn't my circumstances. Like my timeline just didn't allow for that. But if I were to be giving someone advice on that piece of it, I definitely think that that's a better way to go about it, because it's been a very stressful last couple of years for sure. My husband also quit his job around the same time. We both left our jobs to be self-employed the summer before our baby got here.
oof. That one has got to be tough. And what a brave husband that you have, and very understanding too, knowing that he also wanted to do that. Some
Yeah,
people
so he owns a construction company. I don't know if I've ever
okay.
mentioned that to you.
Yeah,
He
you
owns
did. You did. Well, I
yeah,
didn't know that he owned it, but you told me that he's in construction and
Yeah,
it's
so
busy
he owns his
season.
own construction company that he left his job he had been at for 8 years to start his own construction company the same summer that I left my job to start my own
Brave
business.
power couple, man. You know what stood out to me in what you just said, um, is the fact that there will never be a good time to start.
Yeah. No, for sure.
There will always be something. It was either you were doing that certification exam while you were heavily pregnant or while you had a newborn. Like if we even zoomed into that timeline, right? It's either you started now while you did not have, a lot of savings or whatever, and you knew that was going to be hard, or you wait a few more years of being miserable and then, now you just be start. Imagine you're just starting now. Actually, let's pause right there. Imagine if you were just starting now.
Yeah.
It sounds like you wouldn't even go back. You'd be like, "Nope, I will still take the hard."
100%. And that's kind of coming back to that same conversation of the sooner you start, the better.
The better, man. If it's an Instagram account, if it's sending an email, whatever it is, just start.
And
This
even just like the hard things, they get easier the sooner. I think we were just talking about that on a call, where it's like the things that you're avoiding, the things that feel really hard, they get harder the longer that you put them off. The longer you think about starting the business, the longer that you debate leaving your job, the harder it's going to feel. Like you just have to do it.